could be sweet. Dare to honestly see living at ease, not ego and greed. Is it worth feeling right over a piece we're upside down? Fighting so blind, logging on how it could be.
Hi everyone. Let me ask you a question. If you're retired, meaning that you've left your job of many years or you've completely retired from your career, but you still make some extra money, be it through a side gig or part-time work, are you really retired? For quite a few people, and judging by some of the comments I get in my comment section, the answer is no. And I want to explore that a little bit in this video. Hi, my name is Reina and this is Small Retired Life. And on my channel, we talk about all things retirement and living our life in our 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and beyond. If you're new, welcome here. If you look at the traditional definition of retirement, so a definition that maybe our parents had, retirement means that you stop doing your regular work. You typically retire at the age of 65. You ride off into the sunset and you spend your days playing golf or gardening or just doing nothing productive. And that seems to be kind of what I would call old-fashioned definition of retirement. I really actually find this definition really strange because isn't the whole concept of retirement that you have absolute freedom to do whatever you want? And so you would think that if you're retired from having to work, that you can go and do whatever gives you pleasure. Today, I want to talk about the idea of the retirement side gig. Is it a sign that you're really not retired, or is it really a concept of the most modern retirement? I think for a long time, retirement followed a very clear formula. You basically worked till the age of 65, and then you retired and you got the gold watch and you went and you did no other paid work. You just kind of hung around and did things you love. And sure, that's absolutely okay. A lot of people still do that. But I'm not sure that formula holds true nowadays. One of the reasons is that if you look at the past, especially during the 50s, 60s, and maybe the early parts of 70s, people tended to work for one employer, or at least they didn't move around as much as we do today from employer to employer. A lot of the companies also had indexed pension plans. Those are the kinds of pensions that go up with the cost of living. And I'm not saying every company was like this and that every person is like this, but in general, that was kind of the environment. Companies just didn't lay off people as much as they do today. And so when you retired, you had a pension, you had this steady income coming in that was indexed to the cost of living. The other thing to keep in mind is that typically when people retired at the age of 65, they often only lived about 15 to 20 years after retirement. So there was this not short amount of time that had to be funded, but it was doable with the pensions that were in place at the time. It made sense. Now, segue to today, and we have people that if they've stayed with the same employer for 20 years, that's actually an achievement. And I know there's some of you that have done that, but frankly, a lot of people move around from employer to employer. This is specifically the case for people that are in jobs like tech, or if you're in the finance industry, or if you work in oil and gas, where companies get bought and sold and people are laid off at pretty alarming rates. And also, there seems to be this tendency to lay off a lot of people who are 50 plus. Also, I mean, let's face it, our lifespan has increased. It's not unusual to live more than 30 years past retirement. There's people living into their 90s, and a lot of these people are exercising and they're taking care of themselves. And the lifespan has just increased to the level where maybe our savings aren't there to cover that length of time. Those are all realities that we face today as today's retirees. The other thing is, I believe that a lot of the people retiring today, they want to work. They want to have part-time jobs. They want to volunteer. They want to do side gigs. They want to have projects. They want to keep doing something that is meaningful and that provides them the ability to set goals and maybe bring in some extra income. I think today our retirement didn't end work. It just changed our relationship to work. It has allowed us to create work that is more suitable to the lifestyle that we want to live. There has been quite a few studies done recently on people either who are retired in kind of the near term or people that will be retiring in the near term. And the surveys show that about 77% of those who are retired or are planning retirement are expecting to do some kind of work, be it a business or working part-time or just taking on some other kind of job that may be relevant to their field, but in a different way. Retirees are not doing work because they have to, but they're doing work because they want to. So whether it's selling crafts or dog sitting or teaching or consulting a few hours a week or running YouTube channels, a lot of retirees are embracing the concept of segueing from their careers into a type of work that makes them happy. Now, let's be honest, sometimes money does play a role. If you look at the cost of living today, it's pretty scary. The price of gas, the price of food, just the basics that we need to live on day to day have increased a lot more than I think any retirement planner would have thought even 10 years ago. So for some people, there definitely is this need to make extra money. Now, it could be that you have enough money that actually covers your day-to-day expenses, but that's about it. And most people want to do something more than day-to-day expenses. So in my case, I want to travel to Australia every year. There is no way this is going to be handled and covered by what I have saved up for retirement. This is a huge extra and not something that I necessarily planned to be doing. And so in order to do it, I do YouTube and I kind of raise the income for it. For some people, it's just being able to even afford the hobbies they are doing. I mean, let's face it, for all of us who enjoy knitting and sewing, if you look at the price of yarn nowadays, which can be as much as $50 for a skein, if you want to maintain these hobbies in the environment that we're facing right now as retirees, it may be that you need to do something to earn a little bit of extra cash. Now, that could be that if you're a knitter, you're maybe selling some of the things that you are creating, or you're doing a webcast or a podcast on YouTube on your knitting projects and reaching out to other knitters, and you're making a little bit of extra cash because your channel got monetized. There are so many reasons why people may need a little bit of extra money once they hit retirement. And so the ability to have a little bit of a side gig or working a part-time job. Again, I'm going to take the example of a knitter. If you're someone who absolutely loves yarn and you love being surrounded by yarn, then maybe working part-time in a yarn shop might make sense for you. It might not pay a lot of money, but it brings you a lot of joy because you're surrounded by the things you love. And you also get to chat with people on the day-to-day who are really into the same thing that you are. So there's a lot of reasons why people hold jobs in retirement that have nothing to do with being bound to the grind like we were when we were working in our adulthood to save money for mortgages and for homes and to cover children's sports and all of these things that were a part of that chapter of our life. Another reason that some folks who are retired may choose to go back into the workforce on their own terms is just for the social connection, especially if maybe you are single or you're living alone. Sure, you might be an introvert like me and really love being alone and you don't like chatting with a lot of people. But sometimes side gigs and part-time work brings a little bit of social connection to your week that actually enhances your life and your retirement. So again, for example, myself, through my YouTube channel, I have met so many amazing people. I've had coffee with people who are my viewers, and some of these people have become really good friends. So I find that not only has YouTube provided me with extra income to do the things I love, but it has also provided me the ability to connect with people when otherwise I might not, because my tendency is to sit at home and see no one. The next thing is that when you leave a career, not only do you technically lose your job and some income, you also lose structure, you lose some of your identity and day-to-day interactions, and also some challenges, because in certain jobs we have goals that we want to achieve and there's a lot of planning and there's something to look forward to that is very structured. And when we're retired, we don't actually have that. Now, that's not a bad thing, but it does leave a little bit of a hole. And I believe that it's nice to kind of feel like there's some kind of a plan. Now, don't get me wrong, for some people, not having these kind of structured planning and interactions and work type challenges is extremely freeing. I know for me it was. I did not miss my old job at all, but there was that little bit of a twinge where I did get some recognition for being able to do a good job when I worked. There were also people that I enjoyed interacting with that I kind of did not interact with after I left my career. So as much as I felt free and wonderful after I retired, I definitely did miss a little bit of that part of my old job. Experts often say that the happiest retirees retire to something and not just from something. And so this is really important because for a lot of people, these side gigs and the part-time work gives them some type of a purpose. Not everyone is made to just sit at home and do nothing and be happy with it. I would say most people aren't made for that. Most people want to do something, be it paid work or, unpaid work. Like they want to garden, they want to join a running club, or they want some kind of a goal to work for. Just because something is paid or not paid, in my view, doesn't matter. If you have the ability to make money with something that absolutely gives you pleasure and then that you love to do, then that's amazing. That doesn't mean that you're not retired from the old grind. I think some people believe that retirees just sit around and do nothing at all. And I mean, to a certain extent, I think back on my parents' retirement, and they retired to Vancouver Island. And, I have to say, mom just kind of sat around the house and didn't do very much. They did socialize, but it wasn't a huge part of my mother's life. It was a bit more of my dad's life. I kind of looked at them and thought, oh, that must be so boring. And I know that in my own retirement, this is not necessarily what I want to do. At the same time, I don't want to go to a full-time job and grind it out for someone else. And there's always been a desire in my heart to start my own business. And so my retirement actually gave me the opportunity to do that. The concept of doing nothing sounds amazing until you've done it for like a month or so. And I think after that, for most people, it gets a little bit old and they want to do something. Now, this doesn't have to be paid work, but for some people, the challenge of doing something that they'll make money at is something that they really want to try. Like, for example, I really wanted to see if I could get a business going and if I could generate my own income from my own work and my own business without reporting to someone else. This was something that just intrigued me and I had always wanted to do, but never really had the luxury of doing. And so my retirement gave me that luxury to do it without too much of a risk. For other people, it could be things like, for example, if you're really into wine and you want to learn how to be a sommelier, for example. So you might take a small little gig at a wine shop and sell wine part-time and learn more about wine and then do a sommelier course. And you're making a little bit of money, but you're also following your passion. I think psychologically, this is huge for the quality of our retirement. Doing absolutely nothing will eventually become a detriment. Our minds and the way we are made up and the way our brain works, we want to be stimulated and we want to be learning new things. And by being open to part-time work opportunities or being open to starting your own little side gig, you're actually making your brain work and you're making your retirement more stimulating. For those people who love to sew, you can probably relate to it from the sense of you are making an item of clothing and you feel comfortable with making it and using the pattern. Well, now you want the challenge of something a little bit more difficult and a little bit more outside of the scope. And so you learn how to read a new pattern and learn how to sew something new. This is the same idea where you want to do something, but you want to also generate an income of some kind, and you want to see if you can create something meaningful for yourself. And so side gigs are definitely the way a lot of people are doing that. Career jobs often involved bosses and deadlines and a lot of pressure, office politics, just like the worst thing ever, and meeting quotas and that type of thing. It was not enjoyable for most people. Even if you did enjoy your job, there's probably aspects of it that you really didn't like. And maybe if you're like me, the concept that you're beholden to someone else and you don't have true freedom was something that was unpleasant or that you didn't enjoy about the aspect of working. Well, retirement work is different. I do my YouTube channel and I'm responsible to myself. I decide when I put out a video. I decide how many videos I put out there. And it's all dependent on many factors. If I want to earn a lot of money, then I have to put out a lot of videos and work with a lot of brands. If I want to make medium amounts of money, then I do what I do, where I have one video a week. I have my wonderful community of people who watch, and I work with a few brands that I enjoy. And this is my little world, and I'm happy in it. Or you can do YouTube, where you're only putting out a video every couple of weeks, and it's not about the money. It's maybe about the creative process, and getting a little tiny bit of income from that is just like a bonus on top. So the way that we work when we're retired is so different, and it's just not like the old grind. Oftentimes, you can also design work around your life instead of designing your life around your work. And back to my concept of the knitter who enjoys yarn, she or he can work in a yarn store and they love that aspect of it. It allows them to purchase more yarn. It allows them to interact with people who also are into the same hobby, gives them a little bit of social interaction, and they work perhaps as many hours as they want to work. So the way that they're working is something that fits into the life that they have, meaning that they love to do the craft of knitting. They loved knitting things, and they love being surrounded by yarn. It's part of who they are, part of their life. And so their little job, their little side gig fits into that life, as opposed to them fitting their life around it. Again, if we look at the stats, right now, there's a suggestion that about 20% of retirees, 20 to 25% of retirees are working some kind of a part-time job. Does that mean they're not retired? No. It just means that they are fitting extra paid work around their life. They want to do certain things, they want to fund certain things, and so they have these little side gigs that allow them to fund it, or they've accidentally stumbled into something that's paid, kind of like I did. I never thought I would make money with YouTube, but it did make money, and it was kind of a happy accident. And once I realized that this was possible, then it also made me realize that something that I really wanted to do, like travel to see my grandchildren in Australia, all of a sudden became possible as well. My personal philosophy is that if you wake up in the morning and you don't have to go to work, and you are not controlled by a boss, and you can create the day how you want it, then you're retired. Retirement is not about never earning money again. It's really all about the freedom of choice. I love retirement projects that feel more like play as opposed to work. I love writing the scripts for my videos. I like filming my videos. I like the fact that I have to get outside and go to the river and film some beautiful scenery in order to have B-roll for my videos. What I'm doing gives me an incredible amount of joy and satisfaction, and at the same time, it's earning me money. And that's not because I'm not retired anymore. It's because I'm doing absolutely what I want. So am I really retired? Yes, because I'm choosing my life right now. I'm retired because it's my own time and I'm doing what I want to do. Hence, I am retired. And yes, I'm allowed to do whatever work I want to do when I'm retired and make money with it. It absolutely is allowed. So retirement, it's not the finish line. It really is a redesign. For many of us, it's the redesign that includes curiosity, creative projects, and sometimes having a part-time job. The reality is that You are working because you want to, not because you have to. And that alone means you're retired. To me, the word retired is not about doing nothing and just leaving your job and sitting around. And I don't know what people think that retirees actually do, but it certainly is not sitting around doing nothing. I think today's modern retiree has an incredibly rich life where they're allowed to be creative. They are allowed to create new businesses. They're allowed to go out there and learn new things, be it via going to school or doing part-time work in a field that they've always been interested in. Their retirement is what creates the opportunity. So this is all I have for this week. Let me know what you think. Am I retired? Let me know in the comment section below, and I will see you all next week at our regular time. Bye.